All right. What's going on, everyone? Welcome, welcome. We are filling up fast, so we will start here in just a minute or two. And we'll go from there. So this shouldn't take too long. I'm just going to explain kind of the researcher program that's coming up this weekend, what it entails, basic questions. That'll probably take me about 15 minutes or so, maybe 20. And then I'll just open it up to Q&A for any other additional questions that there are. So it shouldn't be too long. I don't anticipate this to go more than an hour. So we'll make it short, sweet, simple, and it'll just be determined on how many questions there are. So with that being said, hopefully you can hear me okay. And if you can hear me okay, just type a 1 in the chat so I know my audio is working. I will make sure that this is being recorded. So for those that miss it or who want to look over it again, they can catch it on the YouTube channel. All right, cool. I'm seeing lots of ones. Awesome. Very cool. Um, cool guys. And then yeah, so I'll go over this and then just I'll open up the Q&A at the end. So hold all your questions till the end and let's go ahead and get started. No need to waste any time. So let me share my screen with you here. Should be able to see this. And let me move this over here. So we've got about 53 people on. We'll see if anyone else joins us. All right. All right, guys. So the researcher program, it is for those who are interested in profiting from surplus funds without having to talk to anyone, without having to cold call, without having to send letters, send text messages, send emails. This is, if you're interested in that, this is what that opportunity is for. Okay. So it's kind of cool. It's a newer opportunity. The first round that I launched was back in August of this year, so just a couple months ago. We have had signed deals already as a result of that, so that's awesome that we've been able to already get results from the leads that are coming in. So how does it work? In a nutshell, guys, you basically conduct research. You find leads and you research them. You submit the file to us. My team will contact them. We'll close the deal. We'll handle the paperwork. And for every lead that pays out, you get paid. Okay. That's the basic gist of it. Now, I want to set proper expectations. Okay. So I want to share with you my numbers, like my recent numbers in my recovery business, so that you understand what it's going to take to actually make any money. Okay. This is the reality of business. This is the reality of all businesses. And this is something that I did not understand when I first started business is, I thought that it would be a lot simpler and a lot easy, much more easier. And that was a rude awakening, but but it's part of learning and growing and starting a business. So with that being said, I want to share with you kind of my numbers in my business so that you understand like what it actually takes. Okay. So can y'all see this spreadsheet right here? You should be able to see a spreadsheet. It says KPI tracker at the beginning. Let me zoom in a little bit here. So you should see at the top, you've got leads, contacts, and then signed submitted deals. Okay, so I'm going to explain what this means. So leads are just opportunities, right? This is a list that we get online, or this is a list of people that we create where we know that they're owed money. Okay, that's what a lead is. It's just someone we've identified that's owed surplus funds. Okay. And so you can see in this column, I like to track how many leads we generated in any given month. Okay. In column D, we have contacts. Okay. That's where we had a conversation with someone. And that can be a conversation via the phone, via email, via text message. It doesn't matter. Even if it's someone that said, hey, no, I've got it handled, or I'm not interested, or I'm working already with someone like an attorney, we count that as a contact. If we actually speak with a lead, then that's a contact. Okay. And then for everyone we talk to, there's a percentage of people that actually sign up with us and we do business with them and we help them recover their surplus. Okay. So down here at the bottom, you can kind of see my contact rate and my close rate. Okay. So the contact rate is simply dividing the number of contacts by the total number of leads. And you'll see right there, it's about 30%. So what does that mean? Well, that means for every 100 leads we generate, we only talk to about 30 people. The other 70 people, we just never hear from them. They either never respond, we never get a hold of them. We don't talk to them. And this is the reality of any business, guys. It's not just a surplus funds business. It's any business. Like if you mow lawns, right? Maybe you mow lawns, maybe you have a landscaping business. You could go into a neighborhood and you could knock on doors asking people if they would like their lawn mowed, right? And not everyone is going to be home. Not every door is going to be open to you. You're not going to talk to every single house that you knock the door, right? That makes sense? And then some people are going to answer and you're going to talk to them and they're going to say no. That's the reality of business in general. And this is something that, because I had never started a business, I didn't understand this. Okay. So I want to stress this, that if you're thinking that you can do do research on a couple leads and get paid, that is not a realistic mindset. Okay. And I want to be very upfront about that and make that very clear. Okay. Because it's really important to set proper expectations. Okay. So closing this out, you can also see my close rate. Okay. So the close rate is taking the number of signed deals and dividing that by the number of people you talk to. Okay. And my close rate is about 14%, right? And that is what it is. Is it great? Is it bad? I don't know. I mean, there's other industries where that would be a good contact rate, and other industries where that would probably be a crappy contact rate. I don't really know. I know if you're a realtor, that's not bad. Okay. But I don't know about other industries. So basically, I wanted to share that with you and just drive the point home so that, we can set proper expectations that you're not going to get paid. It's very unlikely that you're going to get paid if you just do research on, say, 10 deals or even 20 deals. Okay. In order to be successful at this, you will have to submit multiple cases. Okay. And based off the numbers I showed you, and let's just be even more conservative, here's what it would look like to get at least one deal. Okay. You'd probably research 50 leads. If we spoke to 25% of those people, that's 12 and a half people. We'll round it up to say 13. And then if we convert 10%, that's one case. Okay. So bottom line, you're going to have to submit more than one deal in order to get paid. If you think that you're going to submit 5 deals or 10 deals and you're going to make a bunch of money, this is not for you. Okay. So I want to make that super, super clear and just set proper expectations. This is not a get rich quick, and this is not get rich easy. Okay. Now, it's not terrible. It's pretty simple work once you know what to do. But just understand, like, every case that gets submitted is not going to equal a check in the future. Okay. Does that make sense? I just want to be super upfront about that and just make sure you understand that the reality of business is you do a lot of work. You talk to as many people as you can. Some people don't even acknowledge you. A small percentage do. And then of those people that you actually talk to, an even smaller percentage say yes. Okay. And that's in any business. Okay. I don't know of any business where you get paid for talking to every single prospect. I don't know of any that exist. If you know of one that exists, let me know. So, very good. All right. Cool. Now, let's dive into, well, what do you have to do? What's the research entail, right? Okay. So, Find leads, research meet leads. What that means is you confirm who is entitled to the money. Okay. And that's typically the owner, the person that owned the property at the time of the auction. If the homeowner is deceased, you're just going to want to find out who their heirs are. Okay. Then, of course, you want to check for liens against the property because liens have priority to a homeowner. Like they get first dibs to any surplus funds over the homeowner. Okay. Very important to know what liens exist on a property. Then you also want to check, well, what judgments are against this property that, or this person that owned this property, and did they have any bankruptcy? Okay. And then just make sure there's actually money to claim, right? Like if there's no money to claim, obviously we don't want to waste time trying to reach out to someone. Okay. So those are kind of the things that you have to do as a researcher. Things you don't have to do. You don't have to skip trace people, meaning you do not have to find their phone numbers, their email addresses, their mailing addresses. That's something we do. You don't have to call people. You don't have to talk to anyone. You don't have to worry about negotiating, getting contracts signed, finding an attorney to file a claim for you. You don't have to deal with the courts or, submitting claims with the treasurer or whoever's holding the funds. You don't have to set up your own business. You don't have to go get an LLC. You don't have to get a website. You don't have to build a team or hire or manage people. And you don't have to have any previous experience, okay, in real estate or with surplus funds. So those are the things that you don't have to do in this program and this opportunity. Cool. Now, how much do you get paid? Okay. There's two options. You can choose whatever you want. Option A is you get a percentage of the profit. Okay. It's 25% of the net profit. So as an example, let's say we made 15,000 on a deal, your 25% would be just shy of 4,000. Okay. Or you could just do a flat rate. Okay. It's $5,000 for any recovery we do that's over $75,000. And then it's $2,000 on any recoveries between 30 and 74,999. We don't typically do recoveries if it's under 30,000. Okay. So you get to choose what your compensation is going to be. It's totally up to you. And you're not locked in. If you want to change it from deal to deal, you can do that. I don't care. Okay. So who is this opportunity for? If you're short on time, okay, maybe you're a very busy person, but you see the opportunity that surplus funds provides. Maybe you're an introverted person or you just don't want to talk to people. Maybe you prefer to do the research, like you love doing research, but you're like, I don't love talking to people. Okay, perfectly fine. This would be a good opportunity for you. If you're not looking to make this a full-time business, okay, you're just looking for a way to make some extra money working from home on your own schedule, this would be a good fit for you. And also if you're a beginner, maybe you're looking to get into the business, but you don't want to do all of the steps that the business entails, okay? You just want to test it out a little bit. So that's who this would be good for. Now, who is this not a good fit for? If you love talking to people, then you probably shouldn't do this one. If you love talking to people, then you should utilize that. Whether that's a skill that you have or just something you love to do, then I wouldn't recommend this for you. If you're not computer savvy at all, like if you don't know how to navigate the internet and do basic searches, this probably isn't a good fit for you, okay? Because a lot of the research is done online, okay, at the county recorder's office and through the courts and stuff like that. So you do have to have a little bit of computer knowledge or be able to learn a little bit of computer, but it's not super difficult, okay? If you're looking for a way to make fast money, this isn't for you. Surplus funds is not a good niche to make quick money. That's just the bottom line. Again, I already mentioned this, right? If you're expecting to just submit a few deals and make money on all of them or most of them, this is not a good fit for you. And if you're looking for a free opportunity to work this business, this is not a good fit. You still do need to have some money available, okay? let me answer this question. Do I need money to do this? Yes, you do need a little bit of money, okay? What do you need the money for? Well, in some counties, sometimes you have to pay to get copies of like deeds or lien records. Sometimes you might have to pay for a list of overages. So you do have to have a little bit of money, okay? Typical costs are around 50 cents a page, okay, if you need to get a copy of a record. Some counties or some states, they'll charge you like a day pass. Like Georgia is a good example of this. If you're doing research in Georgia, they have a website, gscca.org, I think. You don't have to get a subscription, but you can just pay for a day pass. Okay. It's like $5 for a 4-hour window. You can do as much searching as you want, but it costs you $5 to get access to their records, right? Now, of course, you could go down to the clerk's office and do it for free, or you could pay $5 and just do it all from home. So every county is a little bit different. There are some counties you don't have to pay anything. It's completely free to access their records. Other places, it costs a little bit, okay? So be aware of that. If you can't allocate, 50 to $100 a month for these miscellaneous research costs, then I wouldn't recommend this for you, okay? Wouldn't be a good fit. So keep that in mind, okay? It does cost a little bit of money to make this work. Now, how is this opportunity beneficial? Well, again, it's less work at the end of the day. You're doing less work. You're not getting paid as much, right? Because you're not doing all the work. But it eliminates a lot of the difficult parts of this business, such as finding people, contacting them and helping them understand that this is real and not a scam. Okay, that's probably the hardest part about this business is one of those two. It's either finding them or helping them realize that this is legit. That's the difficult parts of this business, okay? And then, of course, you don't have to worry about the paperwork and attorneys and filing claims. So, this business, it takes 5 steps. You got to create your leads, conduct research, contact people, contract, claim. Okay, those are the 5 steps. Basically, 3 of those steps are eliminated with this program. Okay, 3.5 actually, because you don't have to skip trace either. So that's how it's beneficial. You don't have to start your own business. Thus, you have more free time, less responsibility, more affordable. Like you don't have the other monthly expenses that it might take to run your business. So that's how it's beneficial. Talked about what costs might be needed. How will you know if someone is already working a specific lead? Okay, so we keep track on a master list of when somebody submits a lead. So you can go to that list and see, oh, okay, this person's already been submitted. I'm not going to do the research on that person. Okay, so that'll help you save time and that'll help you know what leads not to work. If you have a list and you're like, okay, this has already been submitted, so I'm not going to waste my time on that. You'll have access to that. So you can see who submitted what, okay? How far back can you submit leads? How old can they be? The bottom line is this: as long as the money is there and it's available to claim, I don't care how old it is. What matters is the money there and can it still be claimed? Okay. That's it. The age of the actual overage is not super important as long as the money's still available to claim, is the bottom line. Why am I offering this? 2 simple reasons. 1, people showed interest in it. And 2, if I can lower my team's time of researching, then the idea is that we can do more deals. Because if we spend more time contacting and less time researching, that should equate to more deals. So obviously it helps me as well. What states will we work in? Any state where there's money available to claim. And it can be from tax sales or mortgage foreclosure. Okay. Obviously, there's some states that I'm not a fan of, but I mean, there's always exceptions. I mean, if the overage is big enough, even if the state's a pain to deal with, hey, I'm willing to go through the pain. okay, if we could successfully recover those funds. So any state at this time, okay? What's the step-by-step process? Okay, so for the researcher program, this is kind of the checklist. Now, obviously, it's going to be much more detailed, and I'll go over that in the training this weekend. But you just have to identify leads, aka identify people who are owed surplus funds, find out who's entitled to that money, aka who owned the house at the time it got sold. Find out what debt is tied to the property. That's a lien search. And then find out the debt that's tied to the owner. That's a judgment or bankruptcy search. Okay. And this is what I'll be teaching, like, how do you do each one of these things? Okay. That's what I'll be teaching this weekend is how do you find leads? There's 4 different ways to get leads for both tax sales and mortgage overages. That's what I'll be teaching about. How do you do an ownership search? How do you do a lien search? How do you check for judgments and bankruptcies? All of this will be going into in great detail the 18th and 19th, this Friday and Saturday, okay? And then you just submit it over to my team. So if you want to get started, you can go to this website. It's just overagesyndicate.com/research, and you can see the date and everything. It's this weekend. It's Friday and Saturday. The last time I did this, we only did 1 day, and I didn't intend for it to go as long as it did, but it went for a very long time. I think it was like 9 or 10 hours of training. So this one, we're going to break it up into 2 days. It's going to be Friday evening, okay, from like 4 to 8 or 5 to 9-ish Mountain Standard Time. And then Saturday morning, okay, from like 9 to 1 or 9 to 2. So I wanted to break it up into 2 days. 1, to avoid the overwhelm. And 2, I think it'll just be a lot better. You'll be able to, what we'll do is we'll go over kind of lead gen on Friday, and you can get a couple leads, and then Tuesday we'll go into the more in-depth research piece, okay? If you can't make either one of the trainings, the replays will be provided to you, okay? So if you've got something going on, you can always watch the replay later. So be aware of that. But again, you can go to the website, overagesyndicate.com/research. That'll give you the times and dates and all that good stuff. Okay. Okay, final last questions, and then I'll open it up for open Q&A. If you've already gone through another program, do you have to go through this one in order to be a researcher for me? Yes. What I found is a lot of trainings are out of date. They're not detailed or comprehensive enough. And I spend a lot of time correcting people's mistakes. And so in order to avoid that, it's just better to go through for me to train you personally, okay? So you do have to go through this training in order to participate as a researcher. If you're already part of my 50/50 program, okay, that's where you actually have to contact people, you can still join this program. It's totally up to you, or just contact people and we'll just split the deals 50/50, okay? So just as a heads up, like, there's 2 opportunities I have right now, guys. There's this researcher program, and then there's my main flagship course where I partner with people at a 50/50 split. But they do more work. They find research and talk to the person. So and that's it. So took me a little longer than I thought. Sorry. About 24 minutes. It's supposed to be 20, but guys, what other questions do you have? I already see many questions in the chat, so let me just go over here and start going through these. Let me scroll up here and see if I can get to the top. Is this pre-recorded? No, Sultan, this is live. You're here live. This is not a recorded training. So welcome. But if you missed it, you can watch the replay. So I guess it depends when you're watching this. If you're watching this on October 15th at 5:25 p.m., you are live. Uh, so we will not get paid per deal we submit. Correct, Melody. It's only on the deals that actually pay out. Okay. Good question. Um, will the training you're offering here be teaching us other methods of confirming the money outside of what is taught in your course? Um, no, I mean if you're talking about my 50/50 course, I go over in pretty in depth about researching. I will say that we do a lot more specific training in this one, meaning I like to use several different states to teach the research process so that you can see how they differ from state to state. Now, we obviously don't have time to go over all 50 states in the 2-day training, but I like to do more specific trainings. So there's a little more in depth on the research side of things, but it's pretty similar. Oh, good question. Can you share what documentation or proof you require to submit the lead to be worked? Yeah, it's very simple. It's screenshots of the property history from the recorder's office, uh, a copy of the deed from when the homeowner bought it and when it was sold at auction, um, copies of liens, right? Screenshots of bankruptcy searches, just any sort of just copies of ownership records, which are deeds, debt records, which are liens or mortgages. And we don't need the entire mortgage. Usually I only need like the first or second page to just shows what the mortgage amount was. And then just screenshots just showing your work. Like if someone didn't have a bankruptcy, you just do a screenshot of your search saying that you search that person's name in the bankruptcy records. Perfect. Just show your work. Is there a cost to do this outside of the typical expenses? No, for this training, it's just a one-time cost. Like there's no monthly membership or anything like that. It's just the one-time fee. Let's see, Deb from Canada. Welcome, Deb, all the way from Canada. That's cool. Yes, I do work with Canadians. You don't have to be a US citizen or even live in the States to do this. As long as you can access. So here's the one thing that I will say, if you are out of the country, you're just going to want to make sure that you can access county records, which you should be able to. And if you can't, you may have to get what's called a VPN is all. So be aware of that if you're an international person, you might have to get a VPN to be able to access some of the county records. Will I be offering the training on another date? Yes. So probably the next time I'll offer this specific research training will be in the spring of 2025. I don't have a specific date yet, but it'll probably be around March. So a few months from now. Can we submit cases from Colorado? Sure, that's fine. You'll just want to be sure with Colorado, you just want to make sure they're older cases. You don't want to submit anything that's sold within the last 6 months. And preferably it's 2 years old or older, but you could submit something between that 6 and 2 month mark. Colorado has some weird laws about it. You just like I said, the 6 month thing, this kind of go into kind of a little too in depth and in the weeds, but you're not supposed to help anyone recover surplus funds within 6 months of the auction in Colorado. Okay. And then the money goes to the state, and then there's some rules. So Colorado's tricky, but I'm working a case right now in Colorado. So if you want to do cases in Colorado, that's fine. Just has to be after that 6 month period. What states are more difficult to work and why? Great question. Every state has its own difficulty. Okay. There is no easy state. Like for real, there is no easy state. Every state has pros and cons to it. And this is an example that I'll give. Florida is a wonderful state to work because it's very easy to find leads. It's very easy to do research. Everything's online. And because it's so easy, everybody likes to work Florida. So the pro for Florida is it's super easy to identify opportunities, which creates the con to Florida, which is there's a ton of people working Florida. There's a ton of competition in Florida. So it's not great. Other states, what's the opposite of that? Places like, New York or New Jersey, for example, a little bit tougher to do the research. Not bad, but kind of harder. So because it's a little bit more difficult to gather leads, gather information, identify opportunities in New York, there's less people working there. So that's the pro of New York, New Jersey, not as many people working there. The con is it's harder to get the leads. It's harder to do your research. And every state is going to have their pro and con. There is no easy state. Every state has its weird things about it. Okay. And one thing that I include in the researcher course is kind of is a guide for the 50 states. Okay. So that you can kind of know and identify which state you may want to work. But just understand every state has its cool things about it and its crappy things about it. So there is no best state for this business. Now, what I will say is most of your deals, most of the leads, most of the opportunities will be created in the most populous areas of any particular state. So it's good to know that. Which field are we researching? Tax deeds, mortgages, bankruptcy. Tax deeds and mortgages, both. I do both. If you want to do bankruptcy, that's fine too. That's not something that I specialize in, but we can do it. I specialize in tax deeds and mortgage overages. I call them TOs and MOs. Tax overages, TOs, mortgage overages, MOs. That's what I like. But I've done other stuff. I've done state unclaimed funds. I don't like those. Bankruptcy, I know how it works, but I haven't done a ton with bankruptcy. Do you still have your Wednesday Zooms? Yes, I do. Yep, every Wednesday I'm doing coaching calls. If we were in the first researcher group, can we come to the new training? Sure. Yeah, if you were in the August training and you want to come to this one, shoot me an email at nick@overagesyndicate.com and I can get you a little something special. So that's totally cool. I'll put my email in there for you. Cool. When are we able to sign up for the course? Whenever you want. Yeah, you can do it right now if you want. So the website is overagesyndicate.com/research. I'll just put it in the chat for you guys. So that's where you go to sign up. You can sign up whenever you want. Please sign up by the 17th though. So I know how many people are going to be there Friday and Saturday. So good question. If a sale has happened and the amount of surplus verified, but sheriff's deed is not yet recorded, can we still submit to lock the client in? Yes, you can. Yep, that's fine. As long as you've done your due diligence and, you've shown that there's going to be a surplus, but the deed's not recorded, that's okay. We can still hop on that. There's always exceptions, right? Now, of course, I would prefer that the sheriff's deed be recorded because sometimes auctions can be reversed. Doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. So it's always nice to have that deed and to show that, hey, the sale did get finalized. But I also understand that it can be better to not wait. And that's something that I do in my business. I tend to go after people as quickly as possible. So that's okay to do, Joe. Great question. Um, Good question. So I've been in the business for a while and have closed deals. So I am trying to justify why I need to pay $600 to submit leads to you. How should I think about it? Great question, Sultan. It just depends on what you're looking for. If you're in the business and you've closed deals and you're happy with how your business currently is, then you would not join this program. It's as simple as that. Like if you're happy with the amount of work that you're doing and the time that you're putting in and the results that you're getting, then you wouldn't join this. You just wouldn't. You wouldn't pay for this. That's how I would look at it. But if you are wanting to maybe simplify your business, maybe you're wanting to offload some of the work, then you may want to consider it. It's totally up to you. I don't know your business. I don't know your situation, but if you're happy with where you're at, I wouldn't change anything and I wouldn't do this. But if you're wanting to simplify or you have to answer that question. Okay. But and maybe I've done a poor job explaining the opportunity, but it just depends on your scenario. And the thing is, like, I don't want to work with someone that I haven't trained, is the bottom line. So that's cool that you've closed deals, but I don't know if how your research works or what your research consists of. Okay. And there may be some things that we do differently. And instead of, just accepting everyone with open arms and then clashing because we do things differently, I like to teach people the method and the process that I use so that they know how to use it and we're all on the same page. So that's why I don't work for free. So I charge money for it. I hope that answers your question. That's a really good question. So some of you, this may not be a good opportunity. It just depends on your situation. If you're well experienced and you're happy, I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't. There's no need to partner with me if you're happy with what you're doing. Can you speak on people who work full time? Is this doable to do while working full time? How many hours a week would someone need available to do the research to be successful at this? Good question, Sally. Typically, in the beginning, if you're brand new, it's going to take you a little bit of time to research cases. Okay. Now, when you get really good and you've got a process down, you can research a full lead in about 10 to 15 minutes. Okay. So we'll call it 4 leads an hour. So if you put in an hour a day, 5 days a week, you're probably submitting about 20 leads a week, which is very good. Okay. So yes, you can do this even if you're working full time. I would just recommend that you're able to do, at least an hour a day, or a minimum 5 hours a week. If you can't do that, if you can't do like a bare minimum of 5 hours a week, then I wouldn't recommend this, is the bottom line. That would be kind of the bare minimum. Okay. So, but yes, you can do this full time. Just make sure you can submit like an hour a day, or 5 hours a week at a minimum. That would be my recommendation. If not, I'd not recommend doing this program. Good question, Dave. This actually follows up really good. So if we go off your number, one closed deal out of 50 leads, maybe it's more like 100. Realistic. I like that. Stay conservative. With all that's involved to produce a proper lead, that one could produce 50 to 100 leads per week if one is putting in 4 hours per day, Monday through Friday. So if you're doing 4 hours per day, like I said, you could probably do about a lead every 15 minutes. So that's 4 leads every hour. If you're doing 4, so that's 16 leads a day. I gotta get out my calculator. 16 times 5. Yeah, you'd be submitting about 80 leads a week. So at that rate, if you can research a lead in 15 minutes, which is absolutely doable, you're doing 4 hours a day, Monday through Friday, yeah, you'd submit 80 leads a week, which that'd be fantastic, be phenomenal. It's difficult to determine errors without calling people. How do you propose to do this? A lot of family members may think there isn't a will, and then someone shows up with one. So that's one thing we go over is number one, checking for probate, and then also checking for obituaries. Now, there are some people, of course, that have neither. They don't have an obituary or a probate. And in those scenarios, we just have to, that finding the errors then falls on me and my team to do, is the bottom line. We'll still accept the case. But you bring up a good point, Julie. Some people don't have any probate or any obituary. So in that scenario, it's on us to find out who the heirs are and how many the heirs are. Now, we might find out that there's a ton of heirs and it might not be worth doing. And if that's the case, we would let you know. Good question. How will we know when you have started a claim with someone we have submitted to you and your team? So we color code everything. So once we get somebody under contract, you'll see that your lead goes green. Okay. If for some reason a lead dies, like maybe we find out they already filed a claim or they signed up with somebody else, or maybe a lien, maybe something happened to the surplus or they filed on their own, right? Then we'll red out a lead, meaning it's dead. And then white just means we haven't received a response yet. So that's the color coding, and we update the lead sheet with our color coding system. Great question. How do we know when the deal is paid out? Are there progress of the claim? Yeah, once a claim is, so this is a good question, Philip. Once a claim is under contract, then we'll send you updates like via email as far as the progress. But we don't send updates if a lead until someone has actually gone under contract. Okay. So really good question. But once we get started, are we looped in on the progress of the claim success or failure? Yes. So again, you've got the spreadsheet, guys. I call it the master list. That's where you can see where your lead is at based on the color coding system. If it's red, it's dead. If it's green, it's under contract. It's been sent to our attorney to be filed. If it's white, we haven't made contact yet with that person. Okay. So that's how you get updated. Once someone does sign up, we'll send you email updates on the progress. And the other thing, some of you may have this question as well, as far as payouts go. Like you'll know when you get paid out because number one, I'm going to email you and say, hey, can you fill out this W-9 form? Also, where would you like me to send your check or your wire or whatever it is? So you'll know when it gets paid out. What is the minimum amount of surplus that can be submitted? 30,000. 30,000 is the minimum. Can we submit pre-foreclosures? No, not interested in pre-foreclosures because we don't know if there's going to be a surplus or not. So no, but good question. In Colorado, you can help before 6 months use of a lawyer, right? Don't know. I've never helped someone recover surplus funds prior to 6 months in Colorado. No idea. But I wouldn't recommend it. Great question, Wendy. Yes. So the expenses that are deducted are just the attorney expenses. Typically, my attorney, they'll take about like, typically they'll take like a 25% contingency fee of the net. So what that would look like is let's say it's a $10,000 payout before expenses. The attorney might take 2,500, 25%. So then the net would be 7,500, if that makes sense. So it's just the attorney cost. Yeah, so there's two compensation options, guys. Option one is 25% of the net profit, and net profit is defined as profit after expenses, including attorney's fees. And I just told you, typically my attorney is 25% of my net, not 25% of the total recovery. Okay. So as an example, if there's a $10,000 gross profit, attorney might take 25% of that. That's 2,500. So then the net profit is 7,500. Okay. Or you can do a flat rate. It's $5,000 flat to you if we recover over 75,000. If it's between 30,000 and 74,999, the flat rate is 2,000. Okay, so those are the two options, either the percentage or the flat rate, and you can choose what you want. Yeah, it's a good question, Carmen. Yeah, so when you're determining the overage, you're going to subtract all of the liens and the judgments that you find against the claimant to determine what the actual overage is. Okay. So yeah, that's why we do the research, is we want to determine how much of the surplus is going to go to judgments or liens. And then based on what we find, we'll determine whether or not it's a good deal or not, right? So excited. Awesome, Gina. Look forward to having you. Yeah, it'll be good. It's a lot of info, guys. You will feel this weekend, you will feel overwhelmed. Hopefully not as much as the last group, because we are breaking it up over the 2 days. But it's a lot of information and very in depth. So it's a great way to get started. Great. When you first started, did you already have an LLC, or did you sign the contracts with only your name? Yeah, good question, Jen. I just did just my personal name for like my first 2 or 3 deals. And then once I had closed a couple deals and I was like, oh, this actually works. This is legit. That's when I went and got an LLC. So yeah. First couple deals, just me and my personal name. Nope, I didn't get any pushback. So yeah, you don't need an LLC to get started. And especially with this opportunity, you don't need an LLC at all, because you're not the one contracting. Hours of the training are, yes, hours of the training, guys. So October 18th, 4 to 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time and 9 to 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So Mountain Standard Time is 2 hours behind Eastern and 1 hour ahead of Pacific, if that helps. If someone is already in your current course, should they consider joining this one as well? Totally up to you, Dave. Like I said, everyone's in a different place, right? So, I mean, if you're happy with what you're doing right now, then I wouldn't recommend this. But if someone's looking to simplify, or they just want to focus on the researching piece, they don't want to have to do the contacting, then you may want to consider this. Yeah, it's totally, you have to ask yourself, like, what do you want and what do you want to do as far as the business goes? Like, obviously, guys, for someone that wants to make the most money possible, well, then you do the most work possible. You do all the steps yourself. So you keep 100% of the profits. But for someone that's like, yeah, I mean, 100% profit is not, maybe someone who is more concerned about having more time, and less profit, then this might be a good opportunity for them. Okay. So it just depends where you're at and what you want to do. If you want to simplify things, then yeah, it would be good. If not, then maybe not. Yes, that's not a question, but Melody, you bring up a good point. It's easy to go down the rabbit hole on these leads. We want to try to avoid that. So how do we avoid that? Well, we follow the checklist. And this is something I'll be going over. But once you check off, each step, you move on to the next and you move on to the next. And you use that checklist as a guide to keep you on track. That way you don't go down the rabbit hole and try to figure out these people's life story, which is very easy to do. I've been there, so I know what you're saying. Got to have a checklist. Anita, do we need to use any special programs? No, there are some programs you can use, like research programs that can help uh, make the process faster, but they're not required. So, guys, we're gathering all the info from public records. Okay, but if you have some research platforms, you can use those, but they're not necessary. What would you say the average hours per lead would be for the research? I mean, once you've gathered the steps, it should take about 15 minutes to research a lead. Okay. Now, if you're brand new to this, it's probably going to take you a little longer. I would double that. So it's probably going to take you a half hour, maybe more, to research a lead. But as you get better and as you practice, as you do more, that research time starts to go down significantly. And especially once you have a process in like a certain area. Okay. So like once you've figured out, okay, this is how I do my research in this particular state, in this particular county, you should be able to get it done in about 15 minutes. Okay. In the beginning, it's going to take longer if you're brand new to this. Okay. So if it's taking you more than an hour to research one lead, something is wrong. Okay. It should not take more than 1 hour to research a lead. The mistake that you're probably making if it takes more than an hour is you're probably just going too in depth and you're actually looking up information that's actually not helpful. Or it's a brand new area you've never worked in. If it's a brand new county or state that you've not worked in and you've never used their database, then I can see why it might take more than an hour because you're trying to figure out the system, right? But once you've figured out a system, it should not take more than an hour to research a lead. Yes, you do want to research the judgments and subtract those judgments from the surplus amount. Same with the liens, because that's going to determine whether it's a good lead or not, right? Because if it's a $50,000 surplus, but there's $40,000 worth of judgments and leads, that's not a good lead. We don't want to pursue that. Okay, because the reality is we're probably only going to get $10,000, and that's not worth it. That's not worth pursuing in this program anyway. So yeah, you want to find the liens, find the judgments, subtract those from the surplus to figure out what the net surplus is going to be. You mentioned your last few deals submitted by people who did the course in August have already closed. What is the average it takes for a deal to close and us to get paid? Great question, Kate. I don't know if you saw the spreadsheet earlier, but for about every 100 leads we get, we contact about a third of those people. And of that third, we convert about 14% of them. Okay. That's that spreadsheet I shared earlier. So many leads are never going to bring about anything. That's just the reality. So it's very, very important. I know I stressed this earlier in the call, but it's very important to understand and have the proper expectation that many of the leads that we have and that we go after never respond to us. We never connect with them. Okay. So let me phrase it another way. Based off the numbers that I showed you guys and the numbers in my business currently. 2/3 of the leads that I generate every month or my team generates, we never talk to those people. They never respond to us. Only about a third do. Okay. So be aware of that. You got to submit. It's like a funnel. Okay. You put a bunch of stuff in and then only a little bit comes out. That's just how this business and any other business goes. Okay. Second question. What if I and someone else who is doing this program submit the same lead? So that should be avoided because you have access to the master list. Okay. The master list shows you what leads have already been submitted. Okay. That way, if you see that a lead is on that list, you're not going to spend any time researching that lead. Okay. So it's very important that you review that master list. Okay. And it's broken down by state. Okay. So every state has its own tab. So if you're doing leads in Arizona, or you've got a list in Arizona, you click on the Arizona tab in the master list and just see if any leads have been submitted from the list you're working. And if there have been some leads, just cross those off your list and only work the ones that have not been submitted. That's how you avoid overlap, okay, or working the same lead. Review the master sheet. Does the 15 minutes of research include actually finding the lead? No. No, finding the lead's a different step, but finding the lead isn't hard. Once you get like a list, guys, if you've got a list of like 20 leads, perfect. Start researching. You don't need a ton of leads. And the lead generation the researching is more difficult than the getting the leads. Getting the leads is pretty straightforward once you know the 4 methods of how to get leads. The researching is what takes the time, the 15 minutes, okay? When researching these leads, you want a detailed history of the taxi with the last homeowner. Yes, correct. Will you take proof of the surplus from a lead system, or do you prefer it's from a county? I prefer it from the county, okay? Whether that's like a notice of excess funds letter that went out, or a screenshot of the actual surplus funds list that the county produced or that the county sent you, okay? That's fine too. Yeah. Prefer it if it comes from the county. Are you still doing the gold program where we can work under you for 6 months? Not currently, no. I haven't opened up that since January of this year. And I don't know if I will open it again. We'll see. Absolutely, Sally. Yeah, you could absolutely reverse engineer, see however many hours it takes you to, research and submit one lead. And then based off the 50 lead submissions, right, you could figure out how many hours it might take. So you could absolutely reverse engineer. That's a great idea, actually. So whatever your goal is, like if your goal is to, get one deal a month to pay out, right? Cool. How many hours would it take to get your 50? And that's gonna vary from person to person depending on your experience. But yeah, I'd absolutely recommend that. Will you use the same company to submit the claim? Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's Overage Refund Specialists, guys. That's my company name. And that's how we submit claims. Overage Refund Specialists. Can we get paid to our LLC? Yeah, absolutely, Fanny. It's not a problem. Yeah, Dave, I would say that's realistic. I would say that's realistic. If you're doing 4 hours a day, 15 minutes per lead, 60 to 80 leads a week, it's definitely realistic to think you could get 1 to 2 paid out deals. And now, also, guys, keep in mind, once let me get some water here. Once a deal gets signed and a claim gets filed, right? It's going to take a bare minimum of 90 to 120 days to get that claim paid out. Okay. So keep that in mind as well, right? Like it takes a bare minimum of about 120 days once a claim is filed. But if it takes us a month or two to get that person signed up, now we're talking 6 months, right? That's why I say this is not quick money. Like we have no control over when somebody signs a contract with us. It might take us 1, 2, 3 months to follow up with that person to finally get them signed. Heck, I've had people we've been following up with for 6, 7, 8 months before they finally sign. Like we don't know when someone's going to sign. So again, keep in mind, like if you're trying to bank, like, hey, am I going to get paid in the next 90 to 120 days? It's probably unlikely. Okay. Because A, we don't control when someone signs the contract. And B, once a claim actually gets filed, it's going to take a bare minimum of 120 days. Okay. So remember, if you're looking for fast money, this isn't a good fit. The whole surplus funds business isn't a good fit. It is not fast money by any means. That's one of the worst parts about this business. We don't have control when we get paid because we're dealing with courts, we're dealing with county governments, trustees who represent banks. These people who are holding the money, they work on their own timeline, and we don't control the timeline. So I want to stress that as well. If you're looking for fast money, don't do surplus funds. Don't do anything with surplus funds. Awesome, Rachel. Look forward to seeing you this weekend. Very cool. Awesome, Sultan. Yeah, glad to. Yep, everyone's in a different situation. So, and yeah, you're right. There are, if you do have, that's actually a really good point. You may have leads that just never came to fruition. And if they're not being worked, then you might as well have someone else work them and still get a piece of the deal. So that makes a lot of sense to me. And then continue to do what's working for you. Yeah, that's awesome. Yep, Sally, we have, so when you submit deals or you've got questions, we've got some staff to help you. So that's one thing too, guys. Like I know and I understand that if you're new to this, you are going to make mistakes, and that is okay. It's okay to make mistakes. I'm not going to get mad at you or like chew you out. Like we're going to tell you what your mistake was and then give you some feedback on how to correct that mistake. So yeah, there is support for that as well. Okay. If 30 good and validated leads are submitted, will all 30 be contacted? Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Awesome. What if the claimant has an LLC or another entity they bought the property through? What process would you use? You would just find who the owner of the LLC is. So you'd submit the name of the LLC and who the owner is. That's all. You'd have to do a little more due diligence because you'd want to research the debt against the name of the LLC and also the name of the owner of the LLC. So if you do have a property where the surplus is owed to an entity, it is a little more little more research for that reason, because now you're researching two things, right? The business and the owner of the business. So you're researching both in that scenario. How many leads did you go through in the beginning before you got an actual contract signed? Dozens, dozens of leads. How long did it take you? It took me over 6 months to get my first deal signed. It took me a long time. I'll tell you why it took me so long, because I made some major mistakes in the beginning. Number one is I got stuck in the lead generation and the research. Okay. So what I ended up doing is I got addicted to getting lists of leads. So I had lists from Delaware, I had lists from California, I had lists from Florida. I had all of these leads these lists of leads that I found, and I just kept getting more and more leads and then researching them and skip tracing them. But then I wouldn't call anyone. Completely stupid. um, I never got to the actual money making activity in this business, which is contacting people. So that's why it took me so long, is I just procrastinated the most important piece. And then once I finally started contacting people, I sucked. I was terrible at it. People went around me, claimed the money themselves. I didn't know what I was doing. I had a script, but the script was not great. And I changed my approach completely from how I was taught to do it. I was taught that you don't tell the people what the money's from or anything like that. You just say, until we have an agreement, then I can disclose to you what the money's from. Dumb, in my opinion. Didn't work, because all that did was create curiosity for people, and then they went looking for it themselves. But anyway, yeah, it took me over 6 months to get my first contract signed when I started this business. And also that's when I first started, right? So when I first started, I was still working my 9 to 5 as a corrections officer, which was actually more of a 12-hour. 6 to 6 was my shift. 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. was the hours that I worked when I worked at the prison. So I didn't have a ton of time, and that's another reason why it took me a long time. I wasn't doing this full time in the beginning. I started this, for those of you that don't know, some of you already know my story, but if you don't know my story, I'll just quickly share with you. I started this business in 2014, part-time. Okay. I was working as a corrections officer at the time and just didn't want to do that anymore, or I just knew I wasn't going to do that for the next 30 years. So I started looking for ways to make money, get into wholesaling, bought a course, right? I bought a course on how to recover tax overages, and I implemented what I learned. Took me 6 months to implement and then finally get results. And then I was like, okay, cool, this actually works. And then in 2017, I left my job to pursue real estate and overages full time. And anyway, long story short, I've been doing this full time since 2017. So if you don't know my story, that's a very shortened version of it. My first full-time year in this business, I did about 20 deals and made $118,000, which I thought was awesome. But to get those 20 deals, I went after over 200 leads. So that hopefully that gives you another idea, right? Like, I'm trying to drive home the proper expectation that not every opportunity you find is going to bring a payday, right? It's very little of the opportunities that we identify will actually bring about a check. But I didn't care, because that 10%, like, right, 20 deals is 10% of 200 leads. That's a six-figure income, which is double what I made as a corrections officer. Like, I didn't make more than, I think my best year was 54,000 working at the Department of Corrections. So I was very happy with 118,000. I have a research program. Well, I still need to give proof of the overage from the county. I mean, you can, Carmen. It just I mean, if we start seeing that the leads don't actually have overages or that the research hasn't been done, then that's obviously going to be a problem. So, I mean, as long as you feel confident, but there just needs to be as long as I can see that the research was done. Like if I can see the sale price of the property, like, the sheriff's deed or the tax deed, and then I can see that the mortgages and the liens were subtracted or that a search was at least done, then that's cool. I'm cool with that. I just have to see that the research was done is the bottom line. What happens if many of us submit the same leads to you? How do you choose which one of us gets the final pay? So it's first come, first serve. And hopefully that doesn't, if that does happen, that's happened a couple times, but it hasn't happened on the same day, knock on wood. So like, for example, we had someone, I think it was this week actually, where someone submitted a lead and then 2 days later, the same lead came in. Well, the person that submitted it the second time, we had to tell them, hey, this lead got submitted already 2 days ago. And obviously, and that's also why we have the master list, right? Once we accept a lead, it goes on the master list. So as long as you're reviewing the master list, on a daily basis or whatever days you decide to work, you should avoid working on leads that have already submitted. And that's why we have the master list to avoid that. But whoever submits it first, or and it gets accepted, that's how we determine that. Good question. So once you receive your payout from research, fill out the W-9. Would it be safe to set aside a portion for taxes at the end of the year, or better set up an actual LLC? Yeah, I mean, I'm not a tax attorney, I'm not a CPA or anything like that, but that is what I do, Richard. I mean, every deal that comes in, I set aside a percentage for taxes. So, that's what I do. Everyone, I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money, but I think it would be wise to set aside some of your funds for taxes. It's never nice to be surprised by the IRS and owe them money. So to avoid that, I like to set aside a portion of my profits for that reason. But that's me. You don't have to, of course. Are you still doing 50-50 in the other program with people we call? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you don't have to show your work as much in that one for sure. I mean, you still want to, with that one, actually, Carmen, we'll check to see if there's an overage. And if there's not, we won't accept it. So, but yeah, we're still doing that 50-50. I have leads. Awesome, Melody. How long before a file is considered a dead file? Yeah, great question, Joe. Typically work something for several months, but that's going to vary. We'll try to work something for at least 6 months. But even then, if we have like a slow month, this is what I like to do. And this is what me and my partners like to do. We'll go back through older stuff. Like it doesn't matter if it's a year old, 2 years old, 3 years old. If the money's still there, we're gonna work that lead. Okay. As long as the money's there, we're gonna work it. Okay. In fact, that's how we survived during COVID when all the foreclosures and tax sales shut down. Business didn't slow down because we just worked all the old stuff. So no file is completely dead, but we'll work it hard for several months. It's a balancing act for sure, because obviously new leads are coming in and we do have to commit time to those newer leads. but we'll work it for several months before. And then if we have slow months, we'll come back to old stuff. No lead is dead unless it's been redded out, is the bottom line. How's the first group's mech? That's actually a really good question, Cheryl. I need to look into that actually and see. I am surprised. I'll be honest, like I'm surprised that we've already gotten some deals signed within the last 2 months. Like I was expecting it to take 3, 4, 5 months just before seeing any results, but we're already seeing it, so that's cool. But I don't have the exact numbers right now. I did not come prepared with those today. I'm sorry. Cool, awesome. Yeah, you're welcome. Absolutely. Awesome money. We'll see you there. Oh, of course. Good question, Mike. Did you ever feel like giving up in the beginning? Oh yeah, 100%. Dude, I still feel like that some days. If that's something I can guarantee you guys, you're gonna have days where you're like, why am I doing this? Blah blah blah, this isn't worth it. I should do something else. Like that's completely normal to have those thoughts. And it's completely normal to get frustrated. It's completely normal to want to do something else. Like that doesn't go away. Okay. Like I still struggle with that where it's like, is it worth it? You know? Or sometimes you get bored and you're like, I'd rather be doing something else that's a little more exciting. Like this business is not very exciting. Okay. It gets boring after a while. And honestly, like that's like there's nothing special about me and there's nothing special about my methods or the way I do things. Honestly, guys, I think if there's a secret, it's not really a secret, but if there's a secret to the success that I've had, it's simply that I didn't give up when I felt like giving up and that I've just stuck with it for as long as I have. Like if you're in this business for more than 2 years, you're probably a veteran of the business. Like there's so many people that come and go, and I just stuck with it. So there's a secret. Can you do this program if you recently got laid off? Absolutely, David. Yeah. It's totally up to you. Now, again, so everyone's situation is different. Um, if you are in a situation, guys, where like, hey, I need money like today to pay my bills tomorrow, like don't do surplus funds. Like, I know I keep saying the same thing over and over, right? But if I was in a situation where I had no income and I needed to pay my mortgage in like 30 days, I would not be doing surplus funds. Okay. For the reasons that I've already stated, you don't have control of when you get paid, right? If I was in a situation where I needed to like make income in the next 30 days, I would be getting some sort of sales job, okay, where I can sell something and I can get paid the same day or the same week. I can make a commission, something like that. Like that's what I would do. If that's what I needed. Okay. If you're someone who needs income today, don't do surplus funds. Don't do real estate. Like don't do buying rental properties or flipping a property or anything like that. Don't do something else. Do like a sales where you can get paid a commission ASAP. California payout longer than 120 days. Depends on the lead. If it's a tax overage, plan on over a year before you see any money. If it's a mortgage overage, it can be around 120 days. Yes. Mortgage overages pay out much faster in California than tax overages. Oh dear, I'm sorry that happened to you, Melody. That's really too bad. So the VAs weren't really trained. Yeah, that's a common, it's happened to me. Don't worry. I've experienced that as well. It's very frustrating. The best VA is the VA you train yourself, is all I can say. So, and that's why this is something I stress too. If you're going to do this business, guys, and you're going to outsource it or outsource any piece of it, you need to train the people that you outsource your tasks to. Like, you can't rely on someone who says they have experience or who says that they were trained by, I mean, it's because it's your business and you might have a different way of doing things. So you just got to like, if you do hire a VA or employee, just know that you've got to train them yourself, at least in some capacity, because otherwise you'll experience, you'll experience that, Melody, what you've experienced. And I've experienced it too. It sucks. It really sucks. I'm sorry that happened. How soon will the recordings be available after the training? Good question, Jackie. Last time I did really good. I was actually proud of myself. I think I had them within 48 hours. So I'm going to shoot for that again. Hopefully 24. That's the nice thing about doing it on the weekend too, is I can, once it's over, I can start uploading stuff, but don't quote, it'll be within at least 3 days. I'll say that, but hopefully sooner. Has there been any changes to this class since the last one? No, it's going to be the same material. PJ, it's pretty much the same material. Nothing new has changed. The only thing that's changed, well, this hasn't changed yet. The only thing that might change is just an additional email on the deal submission form is all. Nothing crazy, but even that hasn't happened yet. So, and when it does, you'll get an update on it. Do you have a lot of employees to run this business? No, I don't. I have 3 virtual assistants. 2 of them are part-time. One of them is full-time. So I guess I would consider them my employees, those 3 virtual assistants. And then my partners. So yeah. And I did that on purpose. There was a time where we did try kind of the employee regular business route, and I did not like that. So I mean, this business for me, guys, it's a lifestyle business. Like my goal is to not like create this massive business and have like a big office building and stuff like that. That's not my goal. My goal is to make good income and have time to hang out with my boys, with my family, go on trips, do stuff that I want, go to lunch with my wife at 1 in the afternoon. Like I just like to have time. Don't need a ton of money. Cool. I think that's most of the questions. Yep, when you're new, you just got to learn everything. You're the you're welcome, Anita. Glad you could join us. No, PJ, there hasn't been any new changes. All right. Cool, guys. Well, if that's all the questions. Again, I'll leave the link for you. It's overagesyndicate.com/research if you want to join this weekend's training. And that's it. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me today. Have a great Tuesday. Hope you learned something. If for those that joined, look forward to having you this weekend. And if you do decide to join, please join by Thursday so I can get a good count for everyone. For those of you that did purchase, just keep an eye out on your email so that you'll get a link for the trainings, right? It'll be via Zoom, just like this meeting. So those will probably come out around Thursday. So if you did purchase, they haven't been sent yet. So if you don't see anything, you haven't missed anything, don't worry. But they will come out within the next couple days. So, all right, guys, appreciate you. Thank you so much. And we'll go from there. Have a great evening. We'll talk to you later.